All right, welcome again to another edition of Drummer Nation, and this is a very special edition in that we have part two of a great start with Billy Cobham. How are you, sir? Welcome to the show again.
Fine, thank you, Michael. Very, very much so. I have a question for you before we start to get into my gibberish. What kind of drum set is that? That Gretsch behind you or something?
It's a Gretsch 120th anniversary edition round badge reissue,
Lord,
I
yeah.
guess. I
Okay,
love
look
them.
at this. That's amazing. Man.
And I got some electronics too. We'll talk about that. But first, say hello to my partner in crimes and misdemeanors, Mr. Adam Nussbaum. How are you today, Adam?
Out on parole. Nice to see everybody.
Yeah, yeah, straight from the jazz standard, right?
Right.
That place I entered that place twice in my whole life. I mean, I always wanted to play there, just never got an opportunity. But yeah, good music down there. That's around Park
Good
Avenue, right?
music, good music, and when you would leave, you'd always smell like ribs.
Right, right. They had a
That was
great.
their specialty. They had a very good ribs and barbecue. So, you'd come home,
Mhm.
it used to be you'd smell like smoke when you came home from a gig
Right,
from
right.
all the smoking. Now you get home from that gig, it's like, you're out there on the barbecue.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
had a gig yesterday, and the prior one to that was at a cigar bar, and I opened the cases, and they smelled like cigars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that brings back a memory too, like
Yeah.
25 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm glad I learned that lesson. Otherwise, I was consumed by that, man, for a long time. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love those cars.
Well, in the first episode, we talked a lot about your personal history, and I want to focus more on the music this time. Uh,
What? Why?
you play drums, do you?
What's that?
Music.
Music, 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 music.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, let's talk about the kit first of all. We have this video of you playing with Horace with a little, bop kit. You made the change to a much larger kit. What brought that about?
Necessity. Got to go with what the flow was flowing at the time. And I started to become a kind of a mild history buff. When I say that, it was kind of, okay, where does all this stuff start? And why everything's so small now? And so forth. One thing that would lead to another. And I'd go, okay. And I'm in a recording session at Rudy Van Gelder's, and from a little bass drum, he sets up a 26-inch this gargantuan bass drum, man. And to be honest, I don't think they were Remos. I think they were tucked heads, if I can remember. It wasn't pre-Remo, but he had an idea, and he wanted me to play that drum. So I played that drum. But it wasn't because it was a 26, it was like, oh, I got to sit up higher, and how am I going to make this work? And it brought up questions that I had to answer in real time, like fast. I can't raise my leg. I've got to just use my ankles. Okay, so I guess they'll have to turn me up, things like this to get to the close to the center of the bass drum. Now you're talking a big bass drum, and I'm playing on a bass drum pedal that could have been a Speed King, so I'm reaching at best. Well,
Billy, let me just ask a question. Was this something that Rudy wanted or the
yes.
producer wanted?
Well, you can exchange them both. One of the producers, Freed, or Frank,
Okay, so this was a CTI project?
or a Blue Note.
Okay. All
Okay.
right, because I'm
Or
wondering, what precipitated them putting that
Guy, Blue
26 up
Note,
there.
Alfred Lyons. I mean, they're all in cahoots together, and there's a one engineer slash producer on his own,
Right.
whom they're just kind of like holding. These guys are holding a stopwatch. But the music's being created by the guy, the former dentist, who's behind the board. that no one's supposed to know is a Rupert Neve because no one would know what Rupert Neve was anyway back then. So
Right.
he was so far ahead of his time.
Rudy.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, I think he was originally an optometrist
I knew he was
or
a doctor or
something.
something.
Something. Yeah.
He could have been somebody who was a neurosurgeon who wouldn't make a difference for
Right.
me. Just don't
Right.
touch me. But anything else, we can talk about the music. And all I was there to do, as it turned out, I only found this out from Ron Carter in a thing that he was an interview he had, was that how he still, and I don't know how they got me. I think it was because of him and Hubert Laws. We needed to do this, make this record for Hubert. And what was unique about me that I didn't realize was that I would just walk in and sit down and play on any drums. I just raised my seat. I was just happy to have a gig, you know. So I'm not going to tell you, no, I don't like this drum set. I'm going to play and hope to God it works, you know, because we need another gig tomorrow and we need to shut up and just do what we need to do. So I would sit down at this stuff, but I start to look at it real good and try to figure out why does he want this? And then I heard he wanted me to feather the drums. So now we're talking Zutty, we're talking Papa Joe, we're talking this big bass drum beater with a looks like a powder puff, you know, on the end of it, and it's soft, but it's got a point. It's pushing the bass drum, and bass drum being the slowest speaking instrument in the set. The tensioning had to be a certain way. He did that himself. I never touched it. I never touched the rods. Nothing. Rudy had an idea, and why he liked me is that I just sit down and play on the drum. If I start to touch anything, you'd ask me once or twice. He did that over those years, and he said, first time he asked me, he said, "I gotta ask you a question." He said, "What?" He said, "Um, that's not your drum, right?" No. He said, "So why are you touching it?" I said,
Mm.
"Well, I mean, I just said, but okay, I get that. But now you see that microphone right over there?" He said, "Yeah." He says, um, "It's in the position that I want it to be, and if you change the drum, then it's not in the position that I want it to be. So do me a favor and don't touch anything until I tell you to." And it didn't come off as being warm. It came off as being bitingly cold. And I went, okay. And from that point on, we were friends until maybe a month or two later, I come in, put my seat around behind the drum, and he says, "Billy." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Okay, do me a favor. See that microphone there? I want you to angle it. I want you to just move it in the direction that I asked you to move it in." I move it. What he told me. He says, "Okay." He says, "Now, um, do you like the tuning on the drum?" I said, "I'm comfortable with the pressure. I don't know what the music is going to be because I'm just walking in cold." Again, another reason why they had me there is because I wasn't saying anything. I was just playing what they asked me to play. So said, until I know what's happening, I'm not going to get into that. He says, "That's good. All right, thanks." I had so few conversations with Rudy Van Gelder, and it was like that kind of stuff. But it was like straight to the cut. You know, this is what I want to do. This is how I want you to do it. Um, and I think maybe the longest conversation, which was one-sided, when I was thinking about making a record of my own, and I was considering going to Rudy to do it because I thought it could go in that direction. I still didn't have my material created really yet, but I knew that what he provided and that studio provided was of I understood what was happening in it. I was comfortable with the sound, what was happening within the room, and how Rudy did what Rudy did. I still wasn't sure whether or not it actually suited what I wrote. but I had to go to him first. And then he opened up and said, okay, you want to record here? This is what you're going to do. And that's when everything turned off in me. Because first and foremost, he said, you're going to do A, B, C, D, uh, record my way. I'll mix it, I'll master it. And as he's doing that, each door is closing on the idea. Because I'm saying, so, okay. So I'm glad we solved that one now. I can move on.
Mhm.
I ain't got nothing, you know. And when I'm going to move and when I'm going to play, and we'll tell you what to do. It was like a guy named Vic was in the it was like a Chirumbolo. I can't remember his name, but it's like a producer with whomever for Creed. I was thinking about working with Creed, but and all that, it all went right out the window immediately, and I realized no, slave to the rhythm, slave. I mean, no, 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 no. So it wasn't a difficult change of thought. But what he had his combination. He had to have his mind in the whole creation of the product, and you can hear it in CTI. You don't hear it as much. Blue Note had a different kind of personality. Um, uh,
Well, they have a definite different sound. There's a different sound. There's a different sonic character between Blue Note Records and CTI. And it's
but I
still the same
recorded.
engineer. So it must have had to do with, Creed's vision of sonics was different than Alfred Line and Francis Wolff. And,
Yeah.
Prestige Records was recording there on other days. Savoy was other days. But
Hmm.
the Blue Note Records always had a consistency
Oh
with
yeah, it didn't
the
have a
sound
consistency.
character, and so did Creed. But the thing I think is it's just fascinating how the same engineer working with different producers could create a different sonic environment. And
I think the
I think,
personality thing in there was with Blue Note coming definitely came before Creed when Creed was with
oh,
Verve.
definitely, without a
And so
doubt.
those guys were well established already as an account
Right.
for CTI
Sure.
for I mean for Rudy. So he was not going to mess with them as much, you know.
Mhm.
Right.
So things sort of stayed where they were with them. I mean, I remember recording a date for Stanley Turrentine on Blue Note where the piano player was McCoy Tyner playing on an RMI piano and an electric piano, which I never saw him do again. I mean, it was like, really?
Oh.
Okay, this is post train, so I'm going, okay, McCoy is searching, he's looking, he's trying to find something a little bit different.
Billy, when did this all translate to you on the gigs using the bigger drums?
It translated gradually, as it within the same period, because you have to
Right.
understand, I'm working anything and everything from stuff to good Lord. Well, it wasn't called stuff back then. It was called the Encyclopedias of Soul. And so I had to have a 22-inch bass drum, but generally
Right.
I just like 20s. I love the point, but I didn't understand why I loved the point. Or
Hmm.
I I had uh who was it? Al Duffy made me, what did he do? A drum set that I could take on the bus, so to get across town because I couldn't carry it all myself, and I could get somebody to pay the bus fare. If I went in the back of the bus, I would send my money up forward on the surface line, and somebody put the money in the changer. It was like 25 cents or something like that, and I could get across town without
Right.
having to move that. And in that was a 20-inch bass drum, open ended, no front head. Inside that was a 16. Inside that was a 14. Or was it a 14? No, inside that was a 13.
13.
And then inside that I had a 10 that he made special. And
Al
so
Duffy, for people that don't know, was an amazing drum builder, and he was also the first gentleman that put the sprocket and the chain on a pedal.
I was there for that.
Because the Gretsch pedals were with the either usually a leather
Leather
strap,
strap.
and cats were breaking them all the time.
And
You know,
everybody, and then there was a big problem with the feet. Our feet. Most of the drummers I knew had flat feet, and they were so broad, and so you couldn't get until the Gretsch pedal. The Gretsch pedal was cool for the pedal plate, but you had to have the leather. So he put a bicycle sprocket chain on that. But there was a ghost pedal, but of course the ghost pedal, the metal was like white. It was this what they call white metal. It had a lot of. It was very porous
pot metal,
or something like
yeah.
that. So you if and I caught hell from Mel Lewis. I broke his. We were playing. I was subbing for him on a big on the Monday night band. And it got heavy. I mean, it was really funny rhythm section. I think it was me and Richard Davis and Chick and but it was like da 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 boom, and I went right through the thing, and it wasn't funny, you know. But I'm playing for all my life. I'm playing with a half a plate in on the pedal, you know, and it's so that didn't go well.
So how about
And
adding all the toms? When did that come in?
Mahavishnu, no, Dreams. Well,
Mm.
Dreams, I had two rack toms, 16 and an 18. So I added a third with the MO. Still had 16 and an 18. Then we started talking about drums. How can I put it? Drums that they had to have tonal character. They had to have personality. To this day, what I'm finding to be very difficult to do, but possible more and more because of the focus more on this resonancy versus batterhead combination thing, which is really great, is that I am able to approximately tune the drum to a character that's relative to the sound of the material that we're playing. If you understand what I mean. So drums to me are not that drum set. You can't just tune the drum set and expect it to stay there. I don't care how much you lock the keys. It's not going to happen. It's going to stretch. So okay, as you play into the drum, most drummers play into the drum. You know, so you have the molar and you hell bent. You're going to get the sound coming in. You're not stinging the drum. Problem. It doesn't hold pitch, but it can hold a relative character of pitch throughout the kit. If you have enough drums and you know which drums to play when, in combination, not just drums, with cymbals. This is the artistry. Where you bring things in and let them out. Where you play two bass drums or one bass drum and how hard you hit it, how you apply the stick to the head of each drum, all of a sudden those characters start to have meaning. And I got very involved in that, and that was around 1970.
Hmm. You also went to two bass drums, right?
And they couldn't be the same pitch. They had to be relative.
That's what I was getting at, because you could have used a double pedal. They weren't very good then, but they are now. But you still prefer two bass drums because you want two different sounds, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking more a melodic direction. I'm taking that direction. I'm not thinking to play how many notes I can play per bar. Just no. It has to be more than that. It has to have more body. It has to have a reason. It's not
musical foundation.
Yes. Otherwise, boom, that's enough. That could work for a whole lot of measures if it's in the right place. You know, it depends on what you need it for. So you can select. You're constantly for me, it's because I love food. I'm at the table and I'm just grasping for a rib, or I'm grasping for a pork chop, or I'm grasping for something when I want it, when I feel it it's going to taste good. It's going to feel good. On the drum set, it's when it's going to sound good. Otherwise, it means nothing to me. Great. I had one boss amongst others who stands out, and bizarrely enough, it was a boxer named Muhammad Ali who I was working for, and at the Winter Garden, and he had this play called Big Time Buck White. He said, you got to sting. You got to sting. He was playing around with me, but it hit me that when he's punching, he said, if you were Joe Frazier, I'd be putting all those bumps on your head and blah 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 blah. And he's talking this is half serious. His idea was to sting the drum, to draw the sound out of the drum, not to play into the drum, not to break the drum, not to break the cymbal, but to get the cymbal to vibrate, get the drum to that tone to vibrate. Now the problem is decay and sustain. You can control that. Now you put your stick on the head. You play it only as long as you want it to play, and then you dampen it. So now you are in control of that sound. So if you imagine that you have a 10-piece drum set or 9-piece set with four rack toms and 2 bass drums and 2 floor toms, and you're doing that, you're not playing that hard. Why? Because you don't have to use that much. You're also not using that much of your muscles, except as to draw the sound out as opposed to play into the sound. So you're bringing out a certain personality of the drums that better, for me, was more closely related to what I'm hearing sound-wise in relation to the other people who play wind instruments or the piano, bass, tonally. So I'm trying to find a way to capture and connect with them in this way, and still play rhythmically correct.
Man, I love that analogy, and that Muhammad Ali could teach you something about drums.
Sure. I mean, if you have this kind of, say this is his hand, and it goes into my face like this.
Mm-hmm.
He drew it away. He actually hit the air that hit my face, and it really impressed me. I was on my butt. We were fooling around. He went, and it went, and my head went back. He never touched me. Now he's concerned because he thought he hurt me, and he never touched me. And I'm in the daze because I'm not sure how did that happen. I knew that he didn't hit me. What I felt was something broad like air, like wind, just pushed my head back. Jesus, can you? And I started to imagine right from then, those guys take a punishment, man, when they get hit, and he didn't even touch me. So if he followed through, because he's slapping, he's doing like this, boom, oh my, I'd be dead. No way am I going to be prepared for that. I don't care pound for pound, forget it. But the other aspect of it is that he's making the mind, the head, the brain vibrate. Whatever he's doing, it's going to vibrate because a tone's going to come. And we're made up mostly of water, so somewhere in the middle of all of that, we're going to pee at some point.
I like I've always thought of, when I hear a great drummer play, there's a balance between things in the top and things in the bottom.
Right.
And to me, I've been inspired watching great boxers because it's the balance of things, up around the head, the top of the sound, and things in the bottom. It's like, or that old term, the little titty boom, and having that kind of way of balancing things out and creating. And I think that's fascinating how you say that you were directly affected, and also the way the motion is coming off the drum in relation to getting into the drum.
Yes.
And they're all viable different techniques to be utilized depending on what the music is telling you to play, hopefully.
Thank you. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
it's all about. It's so in essence, it starts here. You got to play everything here before you play it anyplace else. Otherwise, you
Well,
got
you
nothing.
got to hear a sound.
You got to play everything here before you can play it.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so you go through this nanosecond thing of okay, what I want is this da 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 da. But that happens here before you do because this doesn't the body it's a machine. It doesn't know where to go until you push the button and say start. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you
It's a
also have
process.
the courage to set the kid up wrong by
Yeah.
avoiding the descending tom tom thing.
Again, history, right? So we go back, what, Civil War, 1850 something or thereabouts. That's not that far away, man. It's less
Right.
than 200, less than 150, well, maybe 175 years ago. Okay. Um, they had a bass drummer in the band, a snare drummer in the band, somebody who played cymbals, like a marching band, but that was called a battery.
Mhm.
Okay, so you have this battery, and then some bright-eyed, clever person decided, man, you know what I could do with this? And they started to put together, this is pre-Baby Dodge, so he may not have used a hi-hat, but they had a low boy, and they had this situation, so they're pressing, and this one guy doing all of this stuff and thinking that he'd make triple the money and ended up making less money than the three guys individually before. Well, that was a big mistake in a way. But it started when you could then take a string and put it where your bass drum pedal was on the bass drum, but the string was under the bass drum and came back up on around the other side and pulled down. I mean, all these different contraptions to eventually get to this point where you're saying, okay, size, dimension, um, impact, uh, wood beater, felt beater, powder puff. I mean, when I hear Papa Joe play with Teddy Wilson and understand that there's only the two of them, there's no bass player. And the bass drum is just underscoring all that stride stuff that's going on the left hand. And it's right smack dab in sync. And they're playing with the CBS orchestra. And he's brushes. And I mean, they're just rocking, man. Um, that's I would look at things like that and go, well, I sure like to be there like that someday in my life. I haven't arrived yet anywhere near, but they live that every day. And that in itself is a story to discuss in terms of how we play. We're artists, we're human. We want to play better all the time. Event that comes from making mistakes as one can consider it, but we're experimenting, trying to understand how to be better as a unit together, all together, not just the drummer, but the whole band. Everybody has to get used to each other. Takes a minute. And with Horace Silver, me and Randy Brecker, Benny Maupin, John Williams, and Horace, we were it was when at the end of that tour in '68, I think it was in Copenhagen. It was the first time I ever experienced me having an out of body experience where the band we played so much every month, 10 straight months, where we were easily on the road between a week and a half to 2 weeks per month, easy, different places, experiencing different things because your life is not just playing on the bandstand, it's you bring on the bandstand what you experience off the bandstand, whatever that might be, and you're playing that whether you want to or not, And it could be doesn't have to be directly musical, but it'll have something to do with what you play, and you come to an agreement within yourself about things like that. Next thing you know, you're bringing all of that stuff on the bandstand. and then you're rocking, you know. And
Yeah.
one night in Copenhagen at the Jazz Festival, it was very, very heavy for me. I never experienced that before. I didn't know where I thought, God, man, I don't do drugs. I mean, I didn't get it. I didn't realize that we played so well that it was on such an automatic situation, so that when we were playing either Room 608 or Natives Are Restless or something like that, I ended up sitting in the front row watching me and the band play. And I didn't know how I got there. I do know that as we're playing, it's getting more and more intense, and I'm not on the bandstand. And I'm thinking, how am I going to get back on the bandstand? Because we have to end this tune at some point. What's going to happen to me? How am I going to do this? And it was like, I'm on the bandstand. I don't know how I got there. And it's like, and I'm just like, oh, it's like life. And Randy wasn't in the band at that point. Randy missed the plane. We were God knows where, Hamburg or something. And he said he told me to tell the pilot not to leave me. And he had to go to the toilet. And I don't remember saying, I didn't know. And so I got on the thing. Next thing you know, we land in Copenhagen. And Bill Hart was on the festival. And I don't know if he might have been, I think he was making it with Monk. And he had been in the band before.
Bill Hardman, right.
Yeah. So he just got up on the bandstand. He played the music because he knew it. He had been in that band for years, and him and Junior Cook. Oh my God,
Mhm.
And it was just off the hook. It was like we didn't miss anything, and it was a trip, man. It was really a trip. To feel that have that kind of feeling where what that happened again with Mahavishnu and in Olympia a few years later, and then once with me with Hiram Bullock. We were in St. Petersburg, Russia, playing at a show, and we were really clicking. I mean, it's amazing. And I began to by then I started to get the whole thing with Maestro Bernstein saying there's only one time that the New York Philharmonic had ever uh, played together ever in his life when they played so synchronously that it was I think it was in the new Philharmonic Hall, and they were playing something that they just knew. And he said at some point in time it felt like the whole building was going to levitate. It was a lot of people on the stage, and they were all playing their parts as members of a machine that was just locked. That you accomplish that on a consistent basis, okay. I think there's a few dates where the Miles Davis 64 quintet was like that. And that's with Wayne, okay, and up front, and Tony and Herbie, and okay. But then there was and Chick Corea's Circle was another one where with Barry Ashole and Dave, they just blew my mind. They just walk in and it was amazing. Wandishi was like that. But all of these bands that I'm talking about had to be together a while.
There's an
And
intimacy that occurs through trust, and that cannot be, you can't practice that. It has to be done.
no,
Like you say, you were out with Horace, you're doing 10 months of one-nighters. You
yeah,
can't practice that. And
no,
what happens is
no,
this gets so big
yes,
that
yes,
this can start to really
yeah,
achieve something where the sum is greater than the parts. I mean, that's great
absolutely,
bands.
absolutely.
Yeah.
and you feel it's beyond the notes. It's in the life. Life starts to they overlap somehow.
Big
And
time.
oh my, it's it's amazing, man. Just being a part of something like that, there's no money that can buy that. You know, I mean, it's just what it is. Yeah.
That's why we keep doing it.
Yeah.
But I've had those. I mean, they're moments. It's like fleeting moments where you feel like the music is playing you,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
and you can't predict it. You don't know when it's going to happen, but when it happens,
Oh,
it's a feeling that's very, very special.
all
And I
encompassing.
yeah, it unless you've had that, you don't know what it is. But I could say it's moments.
Yes.
It wasn't like, oh, that night. It's never a whole night, but there'll
No,
be
no, no.
moments or something, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you start
that's
to wonder, I want to die now? Is this heaven, or I need to do these other things? I need to let everybody know I'm gone. All these kind of things started going through my mind. I said, and by then the feeling's gone. You know, it's like,
Mm.
yeah.
Well, let me focus back on your early career. I didn't realize till I was doing some research on you that you were such a part of the New York jazz scene. You were subbing for Mel, for example,
yeah.
people we don't usually associate with you and your music. Tell me about some of those players you worked with in New York in that period.
Hubert Laws, Jimmy Owens. I could start with going to school. I went to school with Eddie Gomez. He was my next door. He sat in my homeroom class right next to me. Um,
Was this music and art?
yeah, and I was
Okay.
a music and art from 1959 to 1962.
Okay.
And so in homeroom class, it was me, Eddie Gomez, Richard T was sitting behind us. Um, down our one of our teachers was Warren Smith. Um, he was a student. He was learning to teach school. He was at Manhattan School of Music, and he came in. Oh man,
He's
Jimmy.
just 90.
I know. I tried to reach out, couldn't. Yeah, and then when I thought that he had passed away, he sent me some messages, and someone of I guess his female partner said that he wasn't in a position to respond right now about
Okay.
because of, and I got it. I thought, wow,
Well, for
so he's
those people
here.
that don't know, Warren Smith is a brilliant percussionist,
Oh man,
classically trained.
oh
He
yeah,
can play great jazz. He
mm-hmm.
worked with so many people. He was one of the primary members of Boom,
And
which
boom, yeah,
was the
with Max.
ensemble that Max Roach helped to coordinate. That
Mm-hmm.
also had, Omar Clay, Joe Chambers, Freddie
Mm-hmm.
Waits, Ray Mantilla, Fred King. I'm sure I'm forgetting some people, but this was an incredible group that if you haven't checked them out, something you may want to check out. M
Absolutely, and
Apostrophe
boom,
Boom. And this
yeah,
was an incredible thing that Max helped to organize. And,
yes, yes.
Max Roach, for those of you who are out there, he would have turned 100 this year. And, one of the icons of this music, period,
Yes,
on a
yes,
musical level and also a great man on a social level.
sure,
So,
sure.
yeah. But this
And
is great for history, for people to understand this stuff.
oh yeah, you can only play what you know, you see. And if you don't know that, you can't play that.
We all got to come from somewhere, baby. We all got our
Oh,
fathers and
baby, that's
mothers.
what she said.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it ain't just mommy and daddy. It's like,
Oh, no, no, my
who
boy.
affected us.
There you go. There you go. And
Yeah.
you keep going down this road, all of a sudden the hip hop things start to take on more meaning, but you need the past to make it that way. It
So,
can't just
Billy,
happen
when
now.
you were in school and
Mhm.
you were going to school in that period and you were young and on the scene, who were the guys that you were hearing live that were informing you?
Charlie Persip. Immediately, the jazz solo Porgy and Bess was like school for me, you know.
I heard a great story about that record. That's a
Mhm.
great record. Bill Potts, the jazz soul of
Yeah, I
Porgy
know.
and Bess.
Is he
The
still
story
here?
of that, I don't know, but the story I heard was that Sip came in
Hmm.
at the last minute. He got the call,
He was
and he
late.
came in and he sight read it and absolutely smoked it. And that kind of got him ensconced in the scene because a guy that could swing like that and
Yeah.
also read, he was right in there with so much work at that point.
You know who was in that band? Do you know who's in that band?
I
Okay,
I
can
got the record somewhere.
I can give you names off. I mean, for me as a kid, I mean, we're talking Phil Woods, Gene Quill, Al Con,
Mm-hmm.
um, oh uh, man, Saul Slinger, um,
Right.
George Duvivier was playing bass, but we're missing one saxophonist. Con made was there, and then I forget the saxophone player. It wasn't Jerome Richardson, it was somebody else, and he's a great player, man. Yes, sir. I've still got my LP.
There you
Yeah.
go. There you go.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. And then
Yes.
let's see. Oh, Freddie Hubbard was one of the soloists. Um,
Well, here we go. Art Farmer, Sweets Edison, Bernie Glow,
oh, yes,
Marky Malkowitz,
yes, yes.
Charlie Shavers. So you
Yes.
got some of the elders, and
Unbelievable.
then you got some of the, Bernie Glow, Marky Markowitz. These were top studio cats.
So you got to
Brookmeyer,
understand this.
Frank
Here's a
Rehak,
heavy.
Phil.
Here's a heavy
Yeah,
about reading. Here's a heavy about reading. I got to put this in.
yeah.
Marky had a photographic memory. Potts, they made this record in 6 hours. Okay, 6 hours. That's first 3 hours. Move people's with chairs around, one microphone. Move people. And so you have J.J. Johnson and Kai Winding and like two or three other cats that I can't remember. I think it might be Jimmy Cleveland or Jim Curtis Fuller. I don't remember which.
Well,
And
it
another
says Brookmeyer, Rehak, Jimmy
fire.
Cleveland, Earl Swope.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
In there,
killing.
yeah, but what we're talking about is these cats coming in, sitting down. Is it Judson Hall or was it recorded at Justin Hall?
Webster Hall,
Webster Hall. There you go. So you got
1959.
yeah, and and we're just listening to that when it came out. It was like, oh my God, all these cats together. Because that's what I wanted to be was a studio musician. I thought, okay, if I can just play and do anything from Ringling Brothers, Bonham, and Bailey Circus to subbing at New York Philharmonic, I've done it.
Right.
I want to be prepared for everything in between. Um, and some of those cats were really great at doing things like that and making it feel as if the music feel through them, their contribution was very, very original. So that meant, again, history. Where do you go to learn that? That's your experiences no matter where. So you got to travel. You got to. You can't. Truth is in what you make it. No matter what somebody says, to them it's their spin. So media is out. You know, you've got to be Walter Cronkite. You've got to.
Well, there wasn't media back then the way it is now.
No.
It's a completely different template
That's
now.
it. Oh, absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. It's like you want to play Latin, go to Puerto Rico, go to Cuba, and then you rub elbows with those people. No, you're not. You're going to get hybrid. You're not going to be perfect.
Well,
But
what's it all about? Direct contact.
yeah, that's the whole thing. So you come in and you play all of that. You go, okay, now I get it. From a black cat who's playing bagpipes I mean, but why? And you start to laugh and you think, playing behind this cat is some interesting shit. I never thought about it like this. You're going to take that someplace. It is what it is, in your own way.
Right. Okay, so it was SIP, and I was fortunate. I got to study with Charlie for a while, and that was
Hey,
great. And I
mhm,
loved him dearly. And also it was about his attitude and commitment
yes,
and his ability,
yes, of
because
course.
he could get the results. Who were some of the other guys, Billy?
Jerome Richardson.
Right.
Okay,
A
I
great
was in that band.
saxophonist.
Yes, on everything. I mean, God, it's so funny what they used to call. Yeah, these cats call for doubles. They weren't doubles. I mean, it wasn't doubles. It was like the whole woodwind line
Yeah.
sitting next to these cats, and they're getting paid for each instrument they play, and it's all written in the book. And what's beautiful being on a session with these cats and seeing how much respect they were given for what they could do. Jerome, Frank Strozier was another one.
That's an alto saxophonist, a wonderful cat out of Memphis.
One thing we noticed is that you're talking a lot about musicians that were your influence on you, not necessarily drummers, because you're drawing from the whole
Mhm.
idiom. One thing I noticed from you before I heard anywhere else, I think, is what they might call today swung 16th notes. Like a little lilt in.
Really? I guess so. Yeah. I never thought about it. Yeah.
Never thought about it that way?
Never in my life. I mean, it's just
Really?
it's almost like you're walking down the street and you're not picking up your feet all the way and you're about to trip over something, an impediment in the block of cement that's in front of you and you don't even know. And you just make it, and you're still on time. It's just
Hmm.
part of what you do. And that's that's the best way I can. It's something that I do.
Right.
Depends on the material. Depends on the material. Depends if it's very duple, then not. No, of course not. But it has to be.
Well, let me play something. See what you think. This is a Red Baron from your
Mm.
original recording.
Mhm.
Um, Here we go.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at is they're swung.
Okay. If it's not if you want me to agree, I can't disagree with you because it's your impression of what you hear me do. I don't hear it, which doesn't necessarily mean that you're wrong.
Okay.
It the way your ideas are based on how you would envision in your mind the material is working for you. That's perfect. That's what makes you who you are, you know. There's no good or bad. It's you. It should be that way.
So it was never anything that was discussed or laid
No,
out.
I just played it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's interesting.
I mean, that record, we went into the studio on Monday night, get levels. On Tuesday, we were recording. Okay. We finished all of the stuff with Lee Sklar and Jan and Bolin that day. And then the following day, um, the rhythm section of Ron Carter, myself, and Jan, Joe Farrell, um, who else was there? Ray Barreto, I think. Uh, and there was a guitar player, but John, I can't remember his name now. But we did all of that other stuff, the Lily and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
It was less than 3 hours, and we were done. The following day, we did masters. On Friday, we flew. Ken Scott and I, we flew to London. We arrived there in the morning. We mixed on Saturday. We mixed on Sunday. On Monday morning, I flew back to New York. So I made a record, mixes and everything, walked off the plane and walked into the office and said, "Here's the master." And they're looking at me like, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about?"
What are you talking about? It hasn't been a year.
Yeah. Yeah, talk to Laura Nero about that one. She went to music and art too, you know. And Janice Ian. But getting back to that kind of stuff, that was just beginning to be like a heavy. Well, no, it wasn't. They were making, that was the Asia days when Asia cost 700 and something thousand bucks to make. And they shrink wrapped about 3 different versions of it before they put it out on the market because they didn't like the cover or they didn't like something on one of the tracks after all was said and done. This was about matching up like Miles the right people with the material. So it kind of is, the community was that rich and strong that you could easily handpick certain individuals that fit the tune that you wrote. And this is coming from me writing music more like with 2 fingers on a typewriter than anything else. Boop, 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 boop. And I'm just thinking that way. But the foundation of it, from the perspective of me as a drummer playing the drums, is not just keeping time, supporting the other musicians. It's about giving them a sense of security that goes beyond synchronization, physical academic synchronization. The groove has to just flow, has to roll. There has to be no round, no sharp edges. It's got to be round.
No herky jerky.
Yeah, do got power. Do. So you're thinking second line. You're thinking,
Right.
you're thinking again, second line, history. Here we go, and you're bringing them back out the funeral, and you're grooving to it because you're celebrating life. You don't celebrate life by just, be down. No, you're gonna feel that. We
That's what I
play,
was hearing in it was the New Orleans influence.
yeah, all of that's there. All of that's
Hmm.
there. When I play
Interesting.
from that perspective of if I go down and I'm working with, uh, Milton or something, I'm playing samba, but in my own way, which is a hybrid coming from Panama and
Hmm.
going down there with this other thing. So it's a combination of the two, what I learn from them and what I bring to the table from home, you know. And the same thing for straight ahead when you play down there, you with musicians from there, you're always gonna get that samba thing. It's like a bossa. It's just they were born with it. They
Right.
cannot get away from it, inclusive of all of the other stuff that they've learned. So it's a hybrid, and you start to do that. Now you have a different kind of personality in the band. It's made up of so many different things.
Let me ask you, do you think about your legacy at all?
No,
Not at all. I mean,
no,
because
I
there's
think
so many
you find a
young,
fucking gig, man. I mean,
so many drummers that came after you that are certainly influenced by you in every way, from the physical setup to the approach to music. Um, how about the new gospel chop
no,
phenomenon? What do you think?
no.
You have any thoughts on that?
No, absolutely not. Because I mean, okay, so it's a million beats a minute in a building where the ceiling is like 60 feet high in a cathedral. How do you play in something like that and of it making any sense? Everybody's playing loud. You have a chorale. There, to me, so I'm saying no, but yet I have thought about it and closed off because I said, but that can't be real. I would love to be in a controlled environment where I played in support of and collaborated with voices where it made musical sense. It wasn't about just yelling and oh God, blah, 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 blah. No, no, no. Um, it's got to have more meaning than that. It's not that simple.
It's
But
almost competitive.
if they accept that, that's what they're going to get. And that's no, so I don't think about that much because that's not who I am. I would not be comfortable doing that. No. I would play a
Yeah,
lot less notes if ever, like I mentioned to Adam, boom, could be that note. It would carry right over because it's vibrating all the time, you know. So it's get until there's another one, ain't nothing else happening, you know.
Got to play the room.
Here you go. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about.
we need to wrap up soon. Let me ask you about the drum and voice series you
Yes.
put
Uh-huh.
together. That's a pretty disparate group of people, but tell me the philosophy because there's like five of them, right?
Yeah, there are five records. And what happened was a trade-off. I had produced a recording with Ron Carter and Kenny Barron, myself. Geez, how long ago was that? Maybe 20 years ago, called The Art of Three, around 2001 or two. And I was looking for a place to distribute it, press it up in Italy. And these people, these called Novecento, was a
Right.
family. They came and said, "Oh, we would love to. We can do that, but we'd like in return, and it's a fair trade. We'd like you to do something for us." And I said, "Well, what is that?" He said, "We'd like you to come in and just play some grooves for us." And I said, "Done." You know, once we came to a formal agreement, and went in and played, and we started to they kicked around like, yeah, we just want to take these grooves and we're going to make some tunes out of them, you know. And I said, you know, it's worth a try. What do I have to lose? I mean, could be something, could be not. First time, the first record was quite successful, and unfortunately, they were not as I guess experienced in production as they would have liked to, or we could have like hoped. So the record was really, really good, but they were dealing with some very, 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 very gray area people, you know, where you just never knew. And this was the company that went under the name of Sony Italy or something like this. And the next thing you know, they didn't do as well as they thought, at least. And but at the same time, it for what the exposure was, it was quite great and was a great idea. Next thing, what they didn't use me again. What we did do is just use they just snipped and cut and pasted and bop and blah. You made another set of grooves from what we had already done, new material, and it started to work again. So it set up a kind of a situation for like a formula that worked out really well for what they were writing, and that's how all of these things came under. And they just added different artists, and that's where their investment went into adding different artists against these grooves that were created. And my drums, my performance was the same, pretty much. I did
Let
it
me
once or twice more, but that was it.
let me play a little bit of this one because I love it. This is Okie Dokie with Randy Brecker. That's wonderful music, man, and quite different than I mean, you've had so much different music through your whole career. Do you think of yourself as obviously not limited by a certain style?
It's true. I like to uh, be kind of a musical salamander and go from one to the other, you know. But play what I feel comfortable playing, not where I feel I'm making a strong contribution to a concept. It's not just for the sake of doing it. There were a lot of guys in the studio who could play mallets. Yes, they knew, but they were not what can I say, really sincere about it. They weren't really comfortable with it. They did it because they wanted to be like Cal Jader, but because Cal Jader wasn't there, Cal was on the West Coast, so okay, Cal Jader-esque, and it sounded kind of, but not quite, for an example. And I wanted to play with that groove. So, for instance, oh man, George sharing with Cal Jader, Armando Peraza. I forget the bass player's name now. Oh, of course, in Toots. They had a thing where they played, and it just felt so like they were all born, in the same family. And you're talking, a young bantamweight fighter coming over from Cuba with no an immigrant with no his main thing was to box, but he found that he could make some money playing Kuga. To learn all about this and to see where everybody and a guy from Belgium comes, he's playing all of this stuff on guitar, and again, all the right notes at the right time. Forget about the mouth organ. I mean, forget that. That didn't even happen yet. It was just about the guitar, and how he was playing was just such a special situation, especially when you listen to him, Wes Montgomery, um, um, Wes Montgomery. Oh man, I can see these guys in front of me. Uh, there was Jim Hall. It was something there, and personality after personality. But they weren't better than, they were who they were, and that instrument was their medium to express their personalities, just like what we strive to do at the drum set. It's just a medium. It's a two-way mirror. Okay. And if we're doing what we want to do, we're the first person in the audience to know. And if we're spot on, everybody else is going to enjoy it too. So it's a lot of stuff there.
Beautiful perspective, Billy. Last thing I gotta say is happy birthday. You're 80 years old, just turned 80.
Right.
How do you look so damn good, man? I mean, you are fit as a fiddle and you're playing as well or better than ever. Do you have a routine or a philosophy? How do you keep this going?
Moderation in life. You know, you got this. If you can be this creative, some people have to be extreme in something. So, I mean, for me, I'm like, I just need to get good rest, take it easy, enjoy the day as whatever comes, you know, and make it easy for ourselves, take care of the family, be in sync with yourself somehow, do the things that make it go. There's something about doing all of my mom would say, do the right thing and you get paid back 10 times over. You do the wrong thing and you have to take 10 steps back, to pay for it, to start again, to get back to where you were before. It makes sense in a way. Um, Being observant is very, very important, and not necessarily that easy to do if you're not interested in what's going on in life around you. Then you won't play that. You will always play through the medium of the drum set or your instrument who you are, where you came from, and where you want to go. You will always do that. And if you look at it that way, you're not looking around physically necessarily, but you're listening, you're paying attention to what's going on, and things are coming. It from the past. It's nice to hear Drummond voice and go, wow, man, yeah. That sounds like Randy before he changed mouthpieces. All this kind of stuff. You go, oh shit, I remember what happened, man. No, and all of a sudden you're playing that. You know,
It's
Well,
fascinating that today, what you're talking about, you play what you feel and what you bring forth. And today would have been Lester Young's birthday,
wow,
August 27th.
wow,
And he had a line, you use your science of music to bring forth your philosophies and your feelings.
this is it, man.
And for those of you drummers out there that don't know, Lester Young was one of the greatest innovators of music. He played the tenor saxophone. He, along with Coleman Hawkins, Ben
Mhm.
Webster, they kind of created everything that everyone came
From
from,
yes, yes.
and a fascinating individual.
Mhm.
And
I'll
just
say,
talk about a time feel and a flow,
oh,
and pretty amazing. But what you're saying, the instrument we play is just the way we express what's coming through
yeah. So
our
it's a
being.
medium. It projects our inner feelings. It
Right,
takes
right.
it takes the place of spoken word. You know, every beat we play is a frequency that's relative, and if not stronger in point than we could ever say, and it's coming out in real time, man.
And everyone anywhere in the world can feel it.
Yes, 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 yes.
well,
Yeah.
Billy, I can't thank you enough for not only your time, but your articulate, passionate, self-revealing nature. And thank you for all the music, man. Thank you
Oh,
for all the
And your
music.
inspiration, man. Inspiration on a lot of levels.
thank
So
you,
thank
thank
you.
you. Well, that's why I perspire so much.
One of the greatest, Billy Cobham. Thank you
Thank you,
again,
Billy.
sir.
Take care, man. You guys be good.
See you on the flip
Much
side.
love to you and yours. Take good care.
Okay, thank you. You too. You guys stay
Okay.
healthy, huh?
Amen. Amen. Thank
Okay.
you, man.
Ciao.
Okay.